I was just looking for a sock. So, my favorite pair had gone missing in the laundry and I reached behind the washing machine to check if it had fallen back there. My fingers brushed against something that wasn't fabric. Paper. Crumpled and slightly damp from the moisture that always gathered behind that old machine. I pulled it out carefully, unfolding the creased edges. My heart stopped. It was an envelope addressed to me, postmarked 5 weeks ago. The return address made my breath catch. Ashmore University. My hands trembled as I tore it open, already knowing what I'd find but needing to see it anyway. Congratulations, Eliza Dorn. We are pleased to offer you full admission with a complete scholarship. The words blurred. 5 weeks. The acceptance deadline had passed 3 weeks ago. He knew. She saw this letter. She hid it behind the washing machine where I'd never think to look. And suddenly every strange comment, every dismissive look, every time she'd changed the subject when I mentioned college applications, it all made horrible, perfect sense. I walked into the kitchen holding the letter in both hands like evidence at a crime scene. She was at the stove stirring something that smelled like burnt beans. I held the letter out to her, my hands shaking so badly the paper rattled. She glanced over her shoulder, barely looking at it, then turned back to her pot. College isn't for people like us, Eliza. You'd never survive out there. Her voice was flat, like she was commenting on the weather. Not apologetic. Not guilty. Just matter of fact. You saw this, I said, my voice cracking. You hid it from me. She shrugged, still not turning around. I saved you from wasting your time. You'd have failed out in a semester and come crawling back here with debt you couldn't pay. She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like she was the wise one protecting her foolish daughter from her own ambitions. I just stood there, frozen, realizing that my own mother had deliberately destroyed my future because she couldn't imagine me having one. My name is Eliza Dorn and I was raised to stay small. I should have seen this coming. When I won the 5th grade science fair with my project on water purification, she told me not to act better than the rest of us. When I stayed up past midnight reading by flashlight because I'd finished all my assigned books, she unplugged my lamp and said, "Light bills ain't free and neither is your attitude." Every achievement was met with a warning. Every dream was treated like a threat. She didn't encourage me, she tolerated me, but only when I stayed within the boundaries she'd drawn. The moment I reached too far, dreamed too big, wanted too much, she'd pull me back down. I thought it was just her way of keeping me humble. I thought maybe she was scared I'd get hurt by hoping for too much. But standing there with that hidden letter in my hands, I understood the truth. She wasn't protecting me from disappointment. She was protecting herself from my success. Ashbury Falls is a town where you're born, you stay, and you die without ever seeing what else exists. One grocery store with flickering lights and expired milk. One church where everyone knows your business before you do. 2 gas stations that serve as the social hub every Friday night. You don't leave Ashbury Falls. You graduate high school, get a job at the factory or the diner, maybe get pregnant, definitely get bitter, and you stay put. That's the cycle. That's the expectation. I was the freak who dared to dream of something different. I read college brochures like they were treasure maps. I studied like my life depended on it because, in a way, it did. And in my mother's eyes, that made me the enemy. I was rejecting the life she'd lived, the life she'd chosen, the life she'd convinced herself was the only option. My ambition was a mirror showing her all the choices she never made. And she hated me for it. I showed the letter to Mrs. Danvers the next morning. She was the only teacher who'd ever really seen me, who'd pushed me when everyone else told me to settle. Her eyes scanned the crumpled page, then shot up to meet mine. The color drained from her face. You were accepted with a full scholarship, and nobody told you? Her voice was barely a whisper. I nodded, unable to speak without crying. She set the letter down carefully on her desk like it was fragile, like it mattered. Eliza, she said slowly, her jaw tightening, this is not okay. This is not legal. This is sabotage. She picked up her phone immediately, her fingers shaking slightly as she dialed. We're going to fix this, she said firmly, though I could hear the uncertainty underneath. I don't know how yet, but we're going to fix this. For the first time since finding that letter, I felt like maybe I wasn't completely alone. Maybe there was still a chance. Maybe someone actually believed I deserved better. Mrs. Danvers called Ashmore University right there in front of me, her voice professional but urgent. She explained the situation, how the letter had been hidden, how I'd only just found it, how this was my dream school. I watched her face fall as she listened to the response. I understand, but surely there's something, an exception, given the circumstances? Her voice got quieter, more desperate. She hung up slowly and looked at me with eyes full of pity. The deadline passed 3 weeks ago. They've already filled your spot from the wait list. The incoming class is locked. The words hit me like a physical blow. My future had been stolen and there was no getting it back. The door had closed. The opportunity was gone. And all because she decided I wasn't allowed to want more than she'd had. I sat there in Mrs. Danvers' classroom staring at that letter, and something inside me hardened. If the door was closed, I'd build a new one. She wouldn't win. Not like this. I didn't yell at my mother. I didn't cry in front of her. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing how much she'd destroyed. I just went silent. I became a ghost in my own house, moving through rooms without speaking, eating meals without making eye contact. She tried to act like everything was normal, like she hadn't just crushed my entire future. I started staying late at the library every day after school. I used the computers there to research other universities, other scholarships, other possibilities. I created a new email address she didn't know about. I requested transcripts to be sent directly to schools, never to our home address. I got a job tutoring kids at the community center for $8 an hour. Every penny went into a savings account she couldn't access. I would get out of Ashbury Falls. I would go to college. And she would never see it coming until it was too late to stop me. I made the mistake of telling my brother Kyle about my new plan. I thought maybe he'd understand, maybe he'd be on my side for once. He laughed in my face. Actually laughed, throwing his head back like I'd told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. College? They don't accept trailer trash, Eliza. Mom was right to throw that letter away. I stared at him, feeling something crack inside my chest. She'd already told him. She'd already spun the story, so I was the delusional one, the daughter with ideas above her station. He wasn't laughing at my dream, he was laughing at a story she'd carefully crafted. I didn't fail, I said quietly. She hid my acceptance letter. He rolled his eyes. Sure she did. Keep telling yourself that. And just like that I knew. She'd been rewriting my story before I even had a chance to tell it. She was poisoning everyone against me, making sure that if I did somehow succeed, nobody would believe it was real. Mrs. Danvers didn't give up on me. 2 weeks after that horrible phone call, she asked me to stay after class. I wrote you a letter of recommendation, she said, sliding a sealed envelope across her desk. I sent it directly to Dean Holbrook at Ashmore. I explained everything, what happened, what kind of student you are, what you've overcome. I picked up the envelope carefully. My name was written on the front in her neat handwriting. He wants to meet you, she continued, her eyes bright. He called me this morning. He said your situation was highly unusual, and he wanted to hear your story directly. Eliza, this is a chance. A real one. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. After everything, after the closed door and the missed deadline and the crushing disappointment, someone was giving me another shot. He's expecting your call, Mrs. Danvers said softly. Don't waste it. I nodded, clutching that envelope like a lifeline. Maybe I wasn't done yet after all. I couldn't take the call at home. There was no privacy there, no place where she wouldn't hear, wouldn't interfere, wouldn't find some way to sabotage this too. So I told my boss at the community center that I needed a smoke break, even though I'd never smoked a day in my life. I walked behind the building, past the dumpsters that smelled like old food and regret, and I dialed the number Mrs. Danvers had given me. My hands were shaking. Dean Holbrook answered on the second ring. His voice was warm, professional, nothing like I'd expected. Miss Dorn, thank you for calling. Mrs. Danvers spoke very highly of you. I was wearing a stained hoodie. My hair was in a messy ponytail. I was standing behind a greasy dumpster trying not to cry. But I told him the truth. The quiet version, the one that didn't make me sound bitter or angry. I didn't have support at home for my education, I said carefully. He was silent for a moment. Then, that makes what you've accomplished even more impressive. Let's talk about your future. 3 weeks later, a new envelope arrived. This time, I'd arranged for it to be held at the post office under general delivery. I picked it up on my way home from work, my heart hammering in my chest. I didn't open it until I was alone in my room with the door locked. My hands trembled as I tore the seal. Dear Miss Dorn, after careful consideration and review of your exceptional circumstances. I had to stop reading. Had to breathe. Had to let it sink in. I was accepted. A full scholarship. But this time with a personal note from Dean Holbrook himself welcoming me to campus. This letter was mine. Mine alone. I folded it carefully and hid it under my pillow, then moved it to inside my backpack, then finally tucked it into my bra. She wouldn't get her hands on this one. She wouldn't steal this future. I'd learn my lesson. Trust no one. Protect everything. Tell her nothing. She knew something was different. Mothers have instincts, even terrible ones. One morning she cornered me in the hallway before school, blocking my path to the door. You're sneaking around again, she said, her eyes narrow and suspicious. What are you hiding? For a moment I considered lying. Considered playing dumb, acting confused, pretending I had no idea what she meant. But I was so tired of pretending. So tired of making myself small to make her comfortable. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, I hope you already know. She blinked, confusion and something else, fear maybe, flickering across her face. What's that supposed to mean? It means you should have checked the mailbox more carefully, I said quietly. Or maybe you should have hidden that first letter better. Either way, you can't stop what's already coming. For the first time in my entire life, I saw her look afraid. Afraid of me. Afraid of losing control. And I smiled. I left on a Tuesday morning with $83 in my pocket and everything I owned shoved into a black trash bag. She'd left for her shift at the clinic at 6 a.m. same as always. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I moved. Clothes, books, the acceptance letter, my laptop that I'd bought with tutoring money. All of it went into that bag. I walked out the front door and didn't lock it behind me. Didn't leave a note. Didn't say goodbye. I just walked, the trash bag slung over my shoulder like some kind of modern hobo. Mrs. Danvers had offered to let me stay with her until I left for school. You're not going back there, she'd said firmly. Not after everything. I crashed on her couch that first night and for the first time in months I could breathe. Actually breathe. No tension. No watching my back. No wondering when the next sabotage would come. I was free. Broke, scared, uncertain, but free. Move-in day at Ashmore was overwhelming. Students everywhere. Parents helping carry mini fridges and matching bedding sets. I dragged my trash bag up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was packed. My roommate, a girl named Chelsea with perfectly straight teeth and designer luggage, watched me haul my stuff through the door. She looked confused, her eyes moving from me to my trash bag to the empty hallway behind me. Are you in maintenance? She asked hesitantly. I almost laughed. Almost. Nope, I said, dropping the bag on the bare mattress. Just poor. She turned bright red, stammering an apology I didn't really hear. I didn't blame her. I didn't fit here yet. My clothes were thrift store finds. My bag was literal garbage. I had no family helping me set up, no photo frames or decorative pillows or string lights. But I would belong here. Maybe not today. Maybe not this semester. But eventually. I'd make sure of it. 2 months into my first semester, I was wiping down tables at the campus cafe, trying to make an extra $20 before my shift ended. The cafe was nearly empty, just a few students cramming for midterms in the corner. I was scrubbing dried coffee rings when I heard a voice behind me. Eliza Dorn, right? I turned around. Dean Holbrook stood there holding a coffee cup, smiling like we were old friends. My heart stopped. Why, sir, I stammered, suddenly aware of how I looked. Hair in a messy bun, coffee-stained apron, exhaustion written all over my face. He nodded, his smile widening. I've been keeping an eye on your progress. Your professors speak highly of you. You're not just a student here, Eliza. You're a story. I didn't know what to say. He continued, I'd like to offer you a mentorship opportunity. One-on-one guidance, networking connections, maybe even a research position next semester. Interested? I nodded, unable to form actual words. Inside I was screaming. Mid-semester, the university held an awards ceremony for academic excellence. I didn't think much of it when I got the email invitation. Just another event I'd probably skip to pick up an extra work shift. But Mrs. Danvers called me. You need to be there, she said firmly. Trust me. So I went, wearing the one decent dress I'd bought from Goodwill, sitting in the back row hoping nobody noticed me. Dean Holbrook took the stage halfway through the ceremony. Our next award recognizes a student who embodies resilience. Someone who came from nothing and is going everywhere. My stomach dropped. Oh, not me. Not in front of everyone. Eliza, please come forward. The room erupted in applause. I stood on shaking legs and walked down the aisle, my face burning. And then I saw her. In the back row, half hidden behind a column. My mother. Stone-faced. Arms crossed. Watching everyone stand and cheer for me. Watching the daughter she tried to bury receive recognition she never imagined possible. Our eyes met for just a second. I saw shock. Anger. Maybe even regret. Then I turned away and accepted my award. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from someone I went to high school with. Hey, heard you're doing good at college. Your mom's telling everyone you dropped out and got into some kind of trouble though. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long time. Of course she was. Of course she couldn't just let me have this. She had to rewrite the narrative, had to make me the failure she'd always predicted I'd be. I didn't reply to the message. Didn't call her. Didn't scream or cry or rage. I just opened my social media, posted a photo of me holding my Academic Excellence Award, and wrote one sentence, still standing. Within an hour, people from Ashbury Falls started commenting. People who'd heard her lies. People who knew the truth now. Congrats, Eliza. Always knew you'd make it. Your mom said you dropped out. I'll guess she was wrong. I didn't respond to any of them. Just let the photo speak for itself. 3 days later, someone knocked on my dorm room door. I opened it to find Kyle standing there, looking uncomfortable and angry at the same time. How'd you find me? I asked, not moving to let him in. He shifted his weight. Doesn't matter. Fuck you, oh mom. After everything she did for you, raising you, feeding you, I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound came out sharp and bitter. Everything she did for me? I repeated. You mean like hiding my acceptance letter so I'd stay trapped in that town forever? His face hardened. She made a mistake. But you're her daughter. You owe her respect. And maybe some money since you're doing so well now. I looked at my brother. Really looked at him. He was 24 and still living at home. Still working at the same gas station he'd worked at since high school. Still trapped in her web. She didn't raise me, I said quietly. She caged me. There's a difference. And I shut the door in his face. 2 months later, I won the Ashbury Falls Regional Academic Excellence Award. It was a big deal. The kind of award that made the front page of the local newspaper. Eliza, from trailer to triumph, the headline read. They interviewed me, took photos, published my story. The whole town knew. Her coworkers knew. Her friends at church knew. The people at the grocery store knew. She'd spent months telling everyone I'd failed, that I'd dropped out, that I was wasting my life. And now the newspaper was calling me a triumph. Calling me the pride of Ashbury Falls. I heard through Mrs. Danvers that she'd called in sick to work the day the article came out. Couldn't face the questions. Couldn't face the truth. People weren't stupid. They could read between the lines. They could see that she hadn't raised a success story, she tried to bury one. And she'd failed. I'd won. And everyone knew it. Graduation week arrived faster than I expected. 4 years had passed in a blur of late-night study sessions, part-time jobs, and slowly building a life I'd once only dreamed about. The ceremony was held in the university's main auditorium, packed with families and friends. I'd invited Mrs. Danvers, of course. She sat in the third row, beaming like a proud parent. I hadn't invited my mother. Hadn't even told her when graduation was. But somehow she found out. I spotted her in the back as we filed in, wearing our caps and gowns. She sat alone, her face unreadable. Dean Holbrook gave the commencement speech, talking about resilience and determination. Then he paused, looking directly at my section. I want to highlight one graduate in particular. Eliza represents what this city can be. Against impossible odds, she not only survived, she thrived. She is the pride of Ashbury Falls. The crowd stood, cheered, applauded, and she sat there frozen, watching what she'd tried so hard to destroy. A week after graduation, my mother posted a photo on social media. It was a picture of me in my cap and gown that someone had taken and shared publicly. She'd added a caption, "So proud of my baby girl. Always knew she'd make it." I saw it because people started tagging me, asking if I'd seen it. The comment section was brutal. People from Ashbury Falls, people who knew the real story, tore into her. Didn't you tell everyone she dropped out? Weren't you the one who said college was a waste? Pretty sure you hid her acceptance letter. Nice try rewriting history. Someone even commented, my sister works at the post office. She told me Eliza had to get her mail sent there because you couldn't be trusted. Disgusting. She deleted the post within 2 hours. But screenshots lived forever. People saved them, shared them, passed them around. She tried to take credit for my success and the entire town had shut her down. Hard. A month later, I heard through the grapevine that she'd lost her job at the clinic. Let go due to workplace concerns, was the official phrase. But everyone knew what it really meant. Too many people had complained. Too many staff members had heard about what she'd done to me. The clinic didn't want someone like that representing them. She tried to get another job in Ashbury Falls, but word had spread. Nobody wanted to hire the woman who'd sabotaged her own daughter. She ended up working part-time at a gas station, the same one Kyle worked at. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She tried to keep me trapped in that town, working dead-end jobs, living a small life. And now she was the one trapped. Living the exact future she'd wanted for me. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel happy about it. I just felt nothing. She'd made her choices. Now she had to live with them. Mrs. Danvers invited me back to Ashbury Falls High to speak to the senior class. Some of these kids are just like you were, she said. They need to hear that it's possible. I stood on the same auditorium stage I used to sit below during assemblies, feeling small and invisible. But now I was the speaker. Now I was the example. I looked out at rows of faces, some interested, some bored, some hungry for hope. You are not your family's failures, I began. You are not your town's limits. You are not the story someone else wrote for you. I talked for 20 minutes about obstacles and resilience and refusing to stay small. I never mentioned my mother by name. Didn't need to. Everyone knew who I was talking about. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. A girl in the front row was crying. After the speech, at least a dozen students came up to talk to me, to thank me, to ask how they could do what I'd done. That was my power. Not revenge. Not bitterness. But showing others the way out. I got accepted into graduate school the following spring. Full scholarship. Research position. Stipend. Everything I needed to keep moving forward. Keep building the life I'd fought so hard for. I packed my things. More than a trash bag this time, but not much. And prepared to leave Ashbury Falls one final time. No big goodbye to. No emotional farewell posts on social media. I just quietly loaded my car, a used Honda I'd bought with my own money, and drove away. I stopped at the town line, the same faded, "Welcome to Ashbury Falls" sign I'd passed 1,000 times growing up. I used to think that sign was a welcome. Now I knew it was a warning. I took one last look in my rearview mirror at the town that tried to trap me, at the life I'd refused to accept, at the person I'd refused to become. Then I drove forward. Toward something bigger. Something better. Something entirely mine. I don't hate my mother. That might surprise people, but it's true. Hate requires energy, attention, emotional investment. And I have none of that left to give her. What I feel is simpler. Indifference. She made her choices based on her own fears, her own limitations, her own inability to imagine something better. That's her burden, not mine. I chose something different. I chose to believe I deserved more even when nobody else did. I chose to fight for a future she couldn't even picture. And I won. Not because I'm special or extraordinary, but because I refused to stay small in a world that kept telling me that's all I was allowed to be. She didn't raise me. Not really. She fed me, housed me, kept me alive. But raising someone means helping them grow, reach, become. She tried to prune me, cut me down, keep me manageable. Instead I raised myself. And now, standing on the other side of everything she tried to prevent, I realize the greatest gift I can give myself is this. Living well, living free, and never looking back.